Green Light Pod host, one of my favorites. Happy New Year to you, Chris Long. Happy New Year, sir. What's going on?
Dude, a very happy New Year to you and the Michigan Wolverines.
Oh, you have no idea. Honestly, I know you've won championships before. I haven't, okay? In football. I'm a Jet fan. I'm a 54-year-old man. That says it all, okay?
Yeah.
And then I started rooting for the Michigan Wolverines in 1986 when I first showed up on campus there, or late 85 when I was accepted early admission. And because that's a humble brag.
That was good.
Okay.
I don't even know what that means, early admission.
It means I was smart enough to say I want to go there. I'm saying I was smart enough to say I want to go there and nowhere else. Yep. Hey, listen, so I'm feeling it right now. But I'm sure you were part of the 27 million people who watched that game on ESPN. What did you think?
I thought it was awesome. I loved, I think the thing that's plagued as a casual college football fan, that whole playoff thing has been the first round games have been cheeks, Rich. They've been terrible. They've been 2 touchdown games, that sort of thing. And so I thought getting 2 great games was awesome. And I love seeing the different styles of play. Like, I love rock fights in the NFL. If it's 12-9, sign me up. Thursday night, Monday night, I'll be in the chow line. And when it comes to college football, I just love seeing a 27-24 type game. I mean, it was just like every possession mattered, and the run game mattered for Bama. And there was drama. There were bad snaps. There was a bad call on the goal line. I didn't understand that. I thought it was great. And Michigan, I have no issue with Michigan. In fact, I'm really excited to see Michigan in the national championship, but it's going to be hard for me to root for anybody but Washington, because watching Penix at night was like, and I know it's the Pac-12 and a lot of people don't watch these games, but it was a great opportunity for people to see what this guy's got. And some of the throws he made, especially early in that game, backed up on the goal line. It's loud as hell there. It's like 70% Texas. And to make those throws, it was incredible. And I think it sucks for you guys, because any other year, most of America would be rooting for you. But this is the last year of the Conference of Champions. And it's just the storylines are crazy. And so whoever wins, I think I'll be really happy as a casual fan. But it's hard for me not to root for Washington. That was just an amazing game.
That's all right, Chris. And you said that unfortunately for Michigan this year, no one's going to be rooting for them. Everyone's going to be rooting for Washington. That's fine, because we are now the villains. Aren't you aware of that? We're now the villains. It's us versus everybody. And you, who used to put on dog masks to win a Super Bowl, you would appreciate that mentality, right? That the whole locker room thinks the whole world's against him. That's potent. I will use that and bottle it, sir. I like it.
They need to put on a Connor Stallions mask.
Who's that? Wait a minute.
Yeah,
this
I don't
is a
know.
bad connection.
Yeah.
I can't
Sorry,
believe
I'm at
that
my
guy
house.
was there. He was apparently there, but whatever. Yeah, I mean, that's literally the way it is. And that is a very potent lotion to just, throw the cologne to just spray on you, man, before a big game.
you got Washington, who feels like that. I had Cole Kubelik on last night, who's awesome, and I loved watching, as I called it, the Cube Cast the other night. They called it the McAfee Cast, but I thought Kubelik was great, and Colt McCoy and all those guys, and Acho and Harry Douglas, and they're doing laps around the stadium. But I think they've got that team of destiny vibe, and you guys have that us against the world vibe. And I think that makes for a really cool kind of deal.
Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. Walk me through what Steelers players are thinking when they hear the official for their must-have game is the one that was the official between the Lions and the Cowboys. Does that matter? Or we're just talking about it in the media? Chris?
I think if you're going to get a good week out of this official, it's this week. After you play poorly, you always buy a team low, that type of thing, buy this officiating crew low. It's not like they missed a bunch of judgment calls. Like, they just missed the most obvious communicative call of the night in the biggest spot. And, I think the Lions got screwed. You can talk about the tripping penalty and that sort of thing. There are calls that are missed in every game. I'm certainly not taking anything away from the Cowboys, but the way that game ended was tough. And, the Lions lost that game because they decided not to go to overtime after the first time that they used up 2 of their 2-point conversion plays, which are like, you guard those things, you wait for an opportunity to use your best play. They send a guy in motion on the first play, you get a timeout. Okay, so that one's out the door, and then you run that trick play that the referees totally botched because, like I'm watching Decker, he's got his elbow out on that wide angle. He's reporting. Like, you can't convince me otherwise. And the fact that the league says, hey, it's on the players, that's the biggest BS in the world, especially when you demote your officials in the playoffs. That's an acknowledgement of doing wrong, but then you don't acknowledge it outwardly. But the issue I have is, and I love Dan Campbell, and I love the fact that he's aggressive and he takes every situation individually, like whether it's the fake punt or the 4th and 3 that he goes, or the 4th and short that he kicks the field goal tied at 10, or the 2-point conversion. But I felt like he was a gambler chasing his losses. And believe me, it takes one to know one. Like after that first one, you shouldn't be going again. You get bailed out on that next call. And then you're down to your like 4th 2-point play, and you're at the 4. And to me, the question is, do you trust Jared Goff to make that throw perfectly? Because if he makes it perfectly, the ball's probably at the pylon, right? And we're talking about the Lions winning. But because they lost that game, Rich, the ripple effects are huge. Dallas gets 2 home games, and probably you've walked LA into Ford Field. You've walked Matt Stafford. You've walked Sean McVay into Ford Field, which is a tough matchup. I'm not saying Green Bay wouldn't be tougher, but there is a mental thing with that. And the way it happens is because Detroit doesn't win that game, San Francisco has nothing to play for this weekend. And you see the ripple effect there with LA probably maybe winning that game and sliding into that 6th seed. So it's not just a blown call, it's seismic.
No doubt, Chris. I was hanging on your every word right there. So my follow-up for you is, defensive linemen, can you be tricked in the manner that the Lions attempted to trick the defensive line of the Dallas Cowboys and wound up tricking Brad Allen at the same time? I mean, is that information? Do you listen to exactly who's reported as eligible, or do you watch it? Not if you're
not in coverage. Generally, a defensive line, when you get an unbalanced look or an extra tackle, you're going to make an adjustment based on how you adjust to those looks. So, then you're in the run fit. But the guys in pass coverage, and the reason I can't be too down on Dallas here is because when they report someone else eligible over the loudspeaker, that's the assumption that everybody on the back end is going off of. So there is the alternate universe, or there is the scenario where you have to acknowledge that Dallas didn't think that Decker was eligible in the first place, and that's on the officiating crew too. Now, in an alternate universe where they say Decker's eligible, that play's probably played differently. So there's a couple things at play here, and I think Dallas, had they known who was eligible, maybe they have a fighting chance to stop that play, but all around just bad. And if I was the league and I had multiple 2-point conversions, to say either, hey, give the ball to Dallas with 13 seconds to go down 1. We screwed this up. You had 3 minutes, probably 4 minutes to do that. There's a phone line from New York. I know that would have felt like the hand of God or something, or like, somebody playing God from New York, and it had been unprecedented, but there's so much on the line, like replay the down or give Detroit the ball, or give Dallas the ball rather, with 13 seconds to go down 1. That, to me, the mechanics of that situation are tough. And it's not like they just kicked the ball off 30 seconds later. There was a ton of time to get that right. So just a real blind spot for the league.
Chris Long, Greenlight with Chris Long, podcast host here on the Wednesday before Week 18 in the NFL. All right, I don't know how much further Philadelphia can fall.
Oh, right? They can fall. They can fall further.
Well, I mean, listen, but they can't fall further than 5, right? So right. So, and I part of what you just were talking about, the end of Lions Cowboys and the ripple effect, and you say Cowboys get 2 playoff games at home if they survive Super Wild Card Weekend. And we're assuming they're going to beat the Washington Commanders, and then the Eagles are going to have to go to the NFC South champ. I mean,
Yeah.
do you fall so far that they get one and done by an 8-9 team potentially, a 9-8 Bucks team? Like, is that what you're talking about right now, Chris?
The Eagles defense since week 12 in EPA is bottom 3. Okay, like they have one of the worst defense in the league, and I'm not being personal. I'm not piling on. There's nothing some of my buddies can do about that up front. You know, the guys that I still talk to, and this isn't coming from them. I try to stay out of that stuff talking to my boys. I mean, like,
Right.
you know, I text Lane after the game. It's just, how you feeling? You know, you looked great. It's not, hey, what's Brian Johnson doing? These are my conclusions.
Yes.
They're too bad on the back end. The personnel is too bad. The linebacker play, too bad. And this defensive front, which would be a plus on a lot of other teams, you're not able to unlock their ability to rush the passer because the fractions of time, but also the run fits are bad. And you saw that a lot during the Cardinals game. You know, you're not just one-dimensionally bad. You know, James Conner, who's a great back. And I think Arizona, the reason I was worried about this game was Arizona has looked like a professional offensive outfit since Kyler's been back. Ball barely touched the ground in the second half for him. Conner had maybe his best game of the year. Michael Carter is looking like an all-pro. And that all that stuff is happening against your guys and things like Ringo being flat-footed on 4th and 4 and giving up inside release. This stuff happens all the time in the NFL every Sunday. Things like Ricks getting shook in the open field, stuff like that. But when it happens to the Eagles, it's so spectacularly bad. And it's also so frequent that there's just too much to overcome. And the run fits are suffering too. You could see that Sunday. So all the lifelines that Howie Roseman has thrown, and he's so well known for throwing these lifelines late in the season, whether it's our Super Bowl year, bringing in Jay Ajayi, you know, bringing in Golden Tate the next year when we made a run, came up short. This year it's been Byard. The coverage hasn't been great. It's been Leonard, and there's a reason he wound up out of Indy. They're in the middle of a playoff push, you know. And then, you know, Avonte Maddox getting back, who really that started the slide, losing him. You think he's coming to the rescue. He gets beat some late in that game. So the lifelines are even drying up. And so for me, yeah, you can lose to the Bucks. I mean, you can absolutely lose to the Bucks. Now, I heard what you guys said right before I came on, and I bet Carolina immediately. They're catching 6 points this weekend. So it's no foregone conclusion that it is the Bucks.
Yeah.
But I think the Eagles are in a place where they can lose to anybody. Now, I think they can still beat anybody in the NFC short of San Francisco. I still think they can beat Dallas. I still think can. You know, yeah, but you're going to have to score 30 points. And that's the uncomfortable truth right now of being a Philadelphia Eagles. You have to win these shootouts. And I can remember when being in a 2-minute drill at the link for the offense, you know, trying to score a field goal or touchdown at the end of that game with 75,000 people or whatever it is going nuts. That was a scary thing for the offense. Like, I remember a time I was there, and last year it was scary. Now it's flipped. And when they kicked that field goal at the end of the game, because of a penalty, because of, you know, play calls and all that stuff, the whole crowd knew what time it was. You know, they knew we were going to lose this game or go to overtime, because that's what you get when you play the Eagles in a 2-minute situation right now. Seattle, the Giants made it too close, and then they lose a game in the 2-minute situation this Sunday.
Well, I mean, a lot to chew on right there. First, for our radio audience, the information you were referring to that we talked about on our Roku channel is that Baker Mayfield isn't practicing today in a walkthrough, and Todd Bowles saying that if it was a full practice, he still would not have practiced as well. So his availability for Sunday is questionable, to say the least, right now, without that actual official injury designation. And then just in terms of what you said about the Eagles, you take a look at their schedule from this year. I mean, they beat a Minnesota team with Kirk Cousins, even though that was in their winless start. And Tampa wasn't what Tampa turned into just yet. They came out here and beat the Rams when the Rams were clearly better than people thought. They smoked the Dolphins. They, you know, did get some help against Dallas, as well as Marquez Valdez-Scantling dropping a ball at Kansas City, and then obviously Buffalo having something in overtime go against them when Allen threw one way and Gabe Davis ran another. But Why? I mean, there's a lot of green up on that screen for wins. Why can't they find that? I mean, you make it seem like there's really obviously anything's possible, but is that team gone? I mean, is that basically team from weeks 1 to week 12 gone all of a sudden?
Well, the quality wins they've had, they've been able to score, right? And, like the Buffalo game, Buffalo went up and down the field on them. That defense has always been kind of a problem this year, especially with the injuries. And then when Slade decides to get scoped at the end of the year, you got Bradbury out here there who's not a man corner, and the personnel is just bad. And I think also more than anything, how many times do you see Super Bowl teams have to replace both coordinators? I know the answer. It's not often.
Right.
I think San Francisco had to do it in the 90s. I think the Patriots had to do it in the early 2000s, and it's just a tall task. And I think, the offense is running a poor imitation of last year's offense. I think sometimes you assume that because you know the things that a quarterback likes or the scheme is going to be somewhat similar, you think things are just going to roll over in the next year. But offensive coordinators are game planners. They're teachers of the scheme. They're quarterback whisperers. They're people that understand how to use people. It's not just because you have the menu doesn't mean that you know what to order at a given moment. And I think that's been the problem. You lost the touch of a guy who's gone out every week pretty much in Indy and scored a touchdown in the first drive. Shane's a wizard. And I think defensively, John Gannon proved why, this year he was, although he took a lot of crap in Philly, a real deal ball coach. And that guy knew that team really well. And he came in there and got that win. So they have lost some good coordinators, and it's hard to replace those guys. And they're just not the same team as last year. Like even earlier in the season when we lauded them for getting to 10-1 or 10-2 or 10-3 after a Super Bowl, that is special. Make no mistake about it. They have done some special stuff this year, but they've been flawed since the beginning of the season. And, San Francisco is in a class above the rest. And that's been something that I think we knew from the beginning of the season.
Last one for you, Chris Long. You're the perfect guy to ask about this because, you know what it takes to win in this league. You know what it takes to win a championship and a Super Bowl in this league. You're also a 38-year-old with kids. What?
Joe Flacco?
Bingo. Like, put into words what's happening right now for Joe.
I think it's incredible. I think first off, Kevin Stefanski, amazing coach, and I knew that before this year. I think his schemes are awesome. I think he puts defense in a lot of binds, but losing Chubb, losing quarterbacks, starting 4 different quarterbacks. Look at the move he made. Look at the move that Barry and them made by saying, hey, we're going to pick up Flacco off the street and we're going to play him. The Jets, Robert Saleh, sorry, you can't win them all, Rich. It can't be Michigan and the Jets in the same year. But Robert Saleh's talking about, Joe Flacco's an F-150. It's nice to have a truck like that in December, and I'm like, well, you could have leased one, man. There are other teams that passed up on Joe. And for them to make that move, I think they knew he had something in the tank. And even if he didn't, his leadership is evident. Okay. And it's cool to be a young guy in the NFL. Talked about this on Inside the NFL yesterday. It's cool to be a young guy in the NFL. But what's really even cooler is being a vet with clout. When you walk into a locker room and all the young guys, they want to know what you know. They want to know what it takes to get there. They gravitate towards you, and I think Joe has that on the ultimate level because he's a quarterback. He's won a Super Bowl. And then when you go out there and play the way he's played, he's unlocked the confidence in them. Schematically, now you got to defend every blade of grass because he takes shots. And I think back to 2017 when Frank Reich, our offensive coordinator at the time, was asked about Nick Foles and how do you give a backup quarterback the confidence that he needs to succeed. Frank said, and this isn't a direct quote, but he goes, I think we have the opposite problem with Nick Foles. The guy wants to make every throw. He wants to finish you. Like this guy, he wants to hit every area of the field and make all the throws. And I think Joe's the same way. He's aggressive. And so you didn't just find a game manager. You found a guy who wants to go for the kill. And I think that's the thing that they have to walk a thin line on because, hey, they're really good. I didn't think they'd be as good without Amari Cooper. I wanted to see what they look like with Amari Cooper against a team with 2 corners. but they didn't have him, and they still moved the ball up and down the field. But the thing that can bite them is turnovers. They have a -7 or -8 differential. Rich, if you go back the last 10 years and look at the Super Bowl, there's only 2 teams, I think, that got there with a minus turnover differential. And so that's the thing that they have to clean up.
That could be born out of, though, having DTR and PJ Walker, right? Starting a ton of games throughout the year, too. So my last question as a follow-up is, you mentioned Foles. You won it all with him. You think the Browns can win it all? What do you think?
They can beat anybody in the AFC. They can beat anybody in the AFC. And if you look at turnover differential, to your point, I had the same thought. But if you sort it for last 3 games, they're still not great.
Okay.
And Flacco throwing picks sometimes, and some of the turnovers they've had can be the thing that get in the way of that. But if they have a plus turnover differential during the playoffs, I put them in a group of 4. Okay, I put San Francisco and Baltimore in one group. If you want to include 2 other teams in that group, I think the Bills and the Browns are 2 teams that can do the whole thing. But the caveat is, if you look up in January and they're -5 in the playoffs, don't come to me and say, well, you said the Browns could win it all. They can only win it all if they stop turning the ball over. If they stop turning the ball over, that team can win it all.
Well, what about the Ravens? I know I got to let you go, but I mean, the Ravens they're killing everybody. So you got to throw them in. It's got to be a group of 5.
Well, yeah,
right?
it is. I had my group of 4 is the Ravens, the Niners, and then the Cleveland Browns and the Bills.
Okay.
And the Bills and the Browns are kind of in that dangerous group that can do it. Now, a lot of teams can do it, and part of that's going to be predicated on if somebody knocks San Francisco off, then all of a sudden you got a couple teams in the AFC that can win it. And if somebody knocks San Francisco off, I don't know what a matchup with Dallas or Philly and whatever the AFC's got to offer looks like. I just don't know. So there's a couple things that hinge on teams getting eliminated, but I think this is as wide open as it's been. In Baltimore, the thumping that they put, the 4th and 7, Rich, that they threw the ball to Isaiah Likely. My jaw was on the floor when the offense stayed out there. It's 21-13. The Dolphins, I've said this, I've been banging this drum. Every time they play a playoff team, they average about 19 points a game. But I'm still afraid of that offense for some reason. And so going into the half, you're going to get the ball out of the half. It's 21-13. You say the hell with it. We're that confident in the team we have. You watched the Dallas game a week ago. I felt like Dallas and Miami were vying to see who would play from ahead, and it was tight early in that game. Baltimore was playing against themselves. They were like, can we score 60? That was their attitude. And Lamar's the MVP. They look like the best team in the league right now.
Well, don't forget, if you root for the Washington Huskies, you're rooting against all Harbaugh's, pal. And it looks like it's a Harbaugh year. You know what I'm saying?
It might be a Harbaugh year, man.
Better than them, right.
And his dad, their dad looks just
Jack is the greatest.
I know that's how it works with dads, but this guy, I thought it was an AI, when the Chinese get your camera roll on TikTok and you put in your face and all of a sudden they own you. There's one of those AI things that if I put my face in, I could see what I look like when I'm 80. I thought that's what it was with Jim. And it's just dad.
It's Jack, chip off the old block. Chris, good luck, with your shows this week. Let's chat next week, as always, and have me on during the playoffs. Please.
Let's do it, dude. Yeah, come through.
Let me know. You tell me.
All right, buddy.
You got my number.
After a Michigan win, maybe.
Okay. Even if not, I'll do it. Yeah.
Okay.
You got me. You had me at hello, Chris Long. Thanks for the time.
Bro. Yeah.
Happy New Year. That's
the
Walter Payton Man of the Year, 2018 Super Bowl champ twice over. Host of Greenlight Pod, as well as a co-host of Inside the NFL on the CW. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.